Hello everyone and welcome back to another exciting episode of UC Sports. We'll be covering everything from how the ladies are still dominating in the NCAA tournament to how baseball and softball handled their first home game as we get ready to slide into the spring sports season. I'm your host Netanya Archibald, and with me returning host Alexandria Palmer.
Without any further ado, UC Sports starts right now. This past weekend, the UConn women's basketball team continued on their path to another Final Four as they battled the UCLA Bruins in the Sweet 16. They walked away the winners of this game, advancing to the Elite Eight, which wasn't going to be an easy game against the Louisville Cardinals. The Huskies got payback on the Cardinals to capture their 14th straight Elite Eight win and head back to the Final Four for the 12th consecutive season. Danny Barletta had the report on this one.
The last time the UConn women's basketball team lost was way back on January 31st when they fell to Louisville. The two teams would face off in a highly anticipated rematch on Sunday in Albany, but this time with much more on the line, a chance for a trip to the Final Four. Neither team scored on their first few possessions, but then everyone started getting involved for the Huskies. The first 4 UConn baskets were all made by different players. Louisville and UConn would trade big runs in the first quarter before the first half became the Megan Walker show. The sophomore couldn't miss, starting off 4 for 4 from beyond the arc to give the Huskies a much-needed early spark. The UConn defense held Asia Durr to just 3 points in the first half, but the rest of the Louisville team stepped up to give them a chance, down just 7. In the second half, Katie Lou Samuelson ensured that her UConn career wouldn't end on Sunday. After a tough game in the Sweet 16, in which she scored just 6 points, Samuelson stepped up in a huge way, knocking down 7 three-pointers, including 4 in the second half in an incredible 29-point performance.
Yeah, I think the way the games were played were different too. I think, for us going into it, we approach our defense and everything the same way, but for me, I wanted to make a little bit more of an impact offensively and make sure that I was involved in Friday's game. We didn't necessarily need that from me, and I felt like today I did need to step up, so I did what I could to help win the game.
UConn held the lead throughout the half thanks to the big plays by Samuelson, as well as the rest of the team, namely Kristen Williams. But Louisville held around until the very end. They caused some turnovers and cut the UConn lead from 11 down to just 2 at one point. But the Huskies were able to hit their free throws, and a huge steal by Williams on the inbound pass sealed the game.
This entire season, I've struggled defensively, so that was a huge stop for me, or for the team, really. I saw it coming, and I stole the ball. It was just a big play at that time.
All 5 starters finished with double-digit points as UConn escaped with an 80-73 win. The Huskies are headed back to the Final Four for an astounding 12th consecutive year, where they will face the winner of the Stanford-Notre Dame game in Tampa, Florida. From the Times-Union Center in Albany, New York, I'm Danny Barletta, UCTV Sports.
You know what season it is when the bats are taken out and the gloves are strapped on. That's right, it's softball season. Last week, UConn's softball team had their first home opener of the season against the University of Massachusetts Lowell. This was a tight game for the Huskies because this was the first time they performed on their field due to the weather. The Huskies led for a majority of the game until the Riverhawks regained the lead and gave the Huskies their first home loss of the season. Even though the first home game loss was heartbreaking for the Huskies, they bounced back when they went to play 3 games at Wichita State. By winning the first game 4-0, they ended up taking the second game 4-2. UConn won the series 2-1. Brianna Marcelino was named AAC Player of the Week with 12 RBI, 4 home runs and 429 batting average. The Huskies will continue to play as they take on the University of Hartford tomorrow in West Hartford.
Now, from the women to the men with the UConn baseball team. The men have had an incredible start to the season. They recently traveled to Orlando to take on UCF. In the first game, it was an even matchup as the entire game was tied 1-1. The Huskies headed into extra innings where they weren't able to come out on top and lost 2-1. Game 2 turned out to be a totally different turnout than last game. Here, UConn put up a season high of 16 hits en route to a 10-0 Mercy rule after 7 innings. This evened the series between these AAC teams. UConn will play at Dunkin' Donuts Park in Hartford on Friday against Cincinnati. The UConn women's lacrosse team fell short in an AAC matchup against Cincinnati this past Saturday. In the first half, the Bearcats held a huge 9-1 lead, but the Huskies came out firing in the second half to cut the deficit 9-4. Cincinnati was impressive and kept scoring, but UConn kept in range, going on a 4-0 run. This sadly was not enough, and they lost the game 11-9. The Lady Huskies are now 2-9 on the season. They may have fell short, but Captain Caitlin Leary had 6 of the Huskies' goals. UConn will look for a win on Saturday against Dartmouth. Well, that's all the time we have for this week's edition of UC Sports. Make sure to follow us on social media at UCTV Sports and subscribe to our YouTube channel at UCTV Channel 14 to keep updated on all things UConn sports.
For Alex Palmer and the rest of the UC Sports crew, I'm Netanya Archibald. Go Huskies!